Good evening, everybody. Today we have incredible guest speakers and a fascinating topic to discuss. We will be talking about mythology and oral culture. Even the topic itself makes me excited, actually, and I'm really looking forward to hear from what our guests saying. So today we are together with Aquila Damoshute, who is a mythologist.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Aquila. Our other guest is Evelina Sabaluskaite, who is a mythology expert.
Hi.
Hi, and we have Giedris Alesius, who is a great writer.
Hello.
Hello,
Really
Giedris.
glad to be here, and thank you for having me.
We are glad to have you, Giedris. And we have Cassandra Neron, who is a sociologist.
Hello, everyone.
Our last guest is Tural Yakubo, who is a historian.
Hi, everyone.
And I am Muratcast, and I will be trying to moderate this great discussion. So before we start, I would like to start with the introductory question. And I want to direct this question to Mr. Giedris. So Giedris, where does the term mythology come from, and what is its meaning? Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yes, I'm very glad you asked. So mythology consists of two main parts, myth and logos. So the first part derives from the ancient Greek mythos, which has a range of meanings from word to saying to story to fiction. And the word logos means word or speech as well. So from this, we can easily already sense a strong relation with oral culture as a concept. Myths tell the stories of ancestors and the origin of humans and the world, the gods, supernatural beings like satyrs, nymphs, or mermaids, and heroes with superhuman, usually godlike powers, as in the case of Hercules or Perseus of the Greeks. Myths are also used to describe origins or nuances of long-held customs or explain natural events such as the sunrise, the sunset, the cycle of the moon, and the seasons, or thunder and lightning storms.
Yeah, thank you so much, Giedris. It was a great introduction. And now I wonder what different types of myths exist. And I want to direct this question to Miss Evelina. So Evelina, can you tell us a bit about what different types of myths exist?
Okay, so thank you for the question. So I found out that there are three types of myths. First one is mythological myths, which explains why things are the way they are today. The term mythological is derived from the Greek word aitheon, which means reason or explanation. Please keep in mind that the explanations given in mythological myth are not the true or scientific explanations. They are explanations that have significance for us as humans. And mythological myths are classified into three subtypes, which is natural, etymological, and religious. First one, a natural ethological myth explains a natural phenomenon. You could, for example, explain lightning and thunder by claiming that Zeus is angry. Then another is etymological ethological myth explains how a word came to be. For example, you could explain the goddess Aphrodite's name by saying she was born in sea foam, because Aphros is the Greek word for sea foam. And a religious mythological myth explains how a religious ritual came to be. For example, you could explain the Elegian Mysteries as a Greek religious ritual that began when the Greek goddess Demeter came down to Eleusis and taught the people how to worship her. Second myth is historical myths, are stories that are told about a historical event to help keep in memory of that event alive. Ironically, historical myths lose accuracy while gaining meaning. For example, the Trojan War myths, such as the Iliad and Odyssey, could be classified as a historical myths. The Trojan War did occur, but the famous characters from the Iliad and Odyssey did not. And the last one is psychological myths. Psychological myths attempt to explain why we feel and act in the ways that we do. A psychological myth differs from mythological myth in that it does not attempt to explain one thing through the lens of another. For example, lightning and thunder can be explained by Zeus' rage. In a psychological myth, the emotion is viewed as a divine force that comes from without and can directly influence a person's emotions. Aphrodite, for example, is sometimes regarded as the power of the rat glove. When someone said or did something they didn't want to say or do, the ancient Greeks might say that Aphrodite forced them to. So these are three types of myths that I think it's true. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Evelina. You told us about the types of myths, and I think there are three, which are mythological myths, historical myths, and psychological myths. Thank you for your answer. But now I'm kind of curious, what are the most spontaneous ways to hear about these myths in our society? And I want to ask this question to Mr. Tural Yakubov. So what do you think about this, Mr. Tural?
All right, Marjan, thank you very much for the question. So there are many ways to transmit myths into the society, and one of them is transmission through communication of people. For example, as a child, we used to believe in Santa Claus. Parents tells us about this character and make us believe in the myth about the existence of Santa. Every year on New Year's Eve, children write postcards with wishes for the new year and put them under the tree. Of course, these wishes are fulfilled by the parents, but they do not say anything about it, thereby not upsetting the children in the existence of Santa. This myth is still exists and is passed down from generation to generation, thanks to the stories of parents. Also, it's a spontaneous way of keeping myths alive. Another example could be is myth about the tooth fairy told by parents. The tooth fairy as legend has it gives the child a small amount of money or sometimes a gift instead of a baby tooth that has fallen out of the child and is placed under the pillow. Also, another way of transmitting myth is image. Simply put, images are pictures. However, in our culture, pictures have become tools used to elicit specific and planned emotional reactions in the people who see them. For example, we used to see on movies messages on how the world is a dangerous place and we need guns, police, and military to protect us. Media critics often focus on violent entertainment drama such as cop shows and movies like Terminator, but graphic reports of crime and terror on the news probably have a greater influence in creating our feeling that the world is unsafe. Newsmakers feature shocking, violent stories because they sell newspapers and raise ratings. And our belief that news stories are real and those could happen to us heightens their impact.
Thank you so much, Mr. Trull. You gave us really critical information about it. And I can, I think, add some things on how society transmits the mythology. I think there are several ways, and one of them are movies itself. Because me, myself, saw some Greek mythology movies, and they were really great, and I kind of get some ideas about it. So there are poems, there are books, and there are even sculptures of mythologic creatures around us. And we can kind of transmit with mythology through these platforms. And I think the most important one is the stories from the elderly. So maybe some of our grandmothers, grandfathers explained us something mythologically when we were kids, just to make us sleep. But they actually transmitted the mythologies to us. Now, at this point, I want to direct a question to Ms. Aquile. So, Ms. Akvili, how realities and myths are interconnected?
Okay, so thank you for this question. I will try to explain it really well. So basically, we live in a world of two interconnected realities. They mesh together so seamlessly that we don't even think about the difference, but like they are totally different. So one reality is physical, like the earth, stars, food, water, body organs, cell phones. So these are all part of our physical reality. And the other reality is socially constructed, like awards, occupations, titles, ownership, laws, and money. So these are all parts of our social reality. So I propose that our social reality is in fact mythic. For example, imagine if people stopped believing in the value of money, then money would have no value. It would only be numbers in bank accounts and pieces of paper. So, as you can see here in the photo, it shows that if people would stand up, the whole social monopoly would collapse. Like money, laws, world leaders would be meaningless. So we can say that our socially constructed reality is the reality of a myth.
Thank you so much, Ms. Aquila. You gave us an information about the realities and myths interconnection. So I would like to ask our last question to Ms. Cassandra Neron. So Cassandra, how do myths influence our society?
Okay, great question. So, firstly, myths will influence the values that can be found in one cultures, and it can also influence the way of seeing different cultures. It's really the possibility of learning values and ideology. For example, Japanese myths will reflect an Islamic nation and its marine creatures, and Native Americans myths tell us about histories and their ways of seeing different concepts such as private properties. So each myth has something to say which will influence our perceptions. If the medium is the message, so myths are a quick way to communicate a message. People such as Max Muller have compared myths as a language disease, which means that myths are a way of telling things when you don't know what to tell them. And Carl Jung takes this further. He will emphasize that myths create collective unconscious, which is a way for each person to communicate with each others. So secondly, myths refer to the creation of archetypes in society, which can create predefined way of behaving. As Iliad underlines, myths help people to make sense of their world and to behave in a certain way. So myths influence action and what we will consider as good or bad. The problem is that when a person behaves in a bad way, from the point of view of what is predefined, this person will suffer from societal judgment. So myths create a bond, but also distance in some cases. We can say that myths are the transmission of values that are not a real part of our lives. And even today, new myths are created. People like George Lucas wanted to create a modern myth with the Star Wars saga, for example. So myths influence our life, but also the future, and especially what we want to transmit to future generations. Finally, myths represent an universal language that allows everyone to understand each other's. Thanks for your question.
Thank you, Ms. Cassandra, for this great explanation. This was our last answer. I would like to thank all the professors that answered our questions, and I hope it was really an effective debate discussion for our audience. So I would like to thank you all once again, and our podcast has ended. Thank you so much.